Morning, folks. Today's soap is brought to us by the way of Yulay. This one here has not been in production in quite some time, but the name of this one here is Holiday Berries. Uh, I use it. It was in other words, it was out of production when I got it, and so I was been using it sparingly over the years. And that's what it looks like there on the inside. You can kind of see the leaves and the berries there, and it does. It smells just like berries. It a really nice scent. Um, really do like this scent. It's what can you say? It's a nice one. Definitely a fit for the occasion. And I got the aftershave here. This one here is Holiday Sparkle. I thought this one here would play well with the soap that I'm using today. I've got it whipped up here in a bowl that is. Let's do it this way. I don't get soap everywhere. This particular bowl is it's an old bowl. You can kind of see it's a heavyweight, and the only thing that I have to go on the bottom, it says hotel, and kind of vintage, so kind of goes along with the vibe of today. Um, got it whipped up here. This is a Vulfix brush here. This one here has got a super badger knot, and this handle is it's a turtle-like handle, and the only ones I can find nowadays are the ivory ones. I got this one here from the Superior Shave Shop a while back. Man, it does smell good. And but I have not been able to see. I don't see these the turtle handles anymore. At the time when I was getting them through a Superior Shave Shop, I had no idea at the time that these handles were going to be that hard to find. So I'm kind of glad I went ahead and got the turtle handles. Uh, but at any rate, it's a pretty nice brush. And blade of the day. I've got a Wilkinson sword, the one I used in the previous video. I'm using in this video, so this will be the second use. And it is in a Gillette Aristocrat. And you can kind of tell gold color, a little bit missing off of the doors, but in very nice shape. I've had this one here for a moment. This one here is, let me go ahead and open it up so you can see what I'm talking about if you're unfamiliar with uh, some of the twist to open. It does have the end caps, so that helps tell you about what year this might have been made. And that center bar, you might be able to tell right there, it does not have the notch to grab the blade and pull it out of a dispenser. That also helps tell you what year it's made. And you might be able to see the blade there. And I doubt you're going to be able to, excuse me, see this part, excuse me, is anyhow, right there in the center, what it says is, it talks about the patent, and the patent is on the package. And that also tells you about what year this was made. In other words, all those little clues here and there, and you can figure out that this was, excuse me, mercy, this was made, in other words, 1946, 1947. Kind of helps narrow it down because there is no date code on this particular shaver. And anyway, a little bit of history there with the uh, Aristocrat. It's a little bit older. There's newer ones. In other words, they'll have date codes, and there's even older ones than that that doesn't have the end caps. But anyway, it's just one of those things. And I've got a link down below also that'll help explain a lot of that sort of thing, and also talks about some versions of the Aristocrat. In other words, the president and all that sort of thing. But anyway, I got very lucky when I got my president. It was in a box with a bunch of other razors that hadn't been cleaned up or anything of the sort, and it's at an antique store. And I got a deal on the whole box. And so once you figure out all the prices, for each piece and whatnot, divide it all up, and in other words, work the numbers, and I got my president for about $3. Uh, got really lucky, and it was in darn good shape too. It was just, had a lot of soap scum on it. Already put a hot towel to the face this morning, and got a little bit of this pre-shave cube. I finally figured out, I was going through setting things up, shaves, going forward. And I finally figured out what I'm going to do with the rest of the shave cube. Um, I was going through, and I had found not that I had forgotten about it necessarily, but it wasn't to the front of my mind about this soap that I hadn't used in a while. And there's just, when you look at the container and you see the size of the container and seeing how much of the uh, soap is left in the container, is not a whole lot left. And what I had found was Wilkinson Sword in a blue tub, and it's the only Wilkinson Sword soap that I've got left. Um, for me, sometimes finding that sort of soap is not always the easiest, and when you do, they seem to want a premium price for it. So me being the kind of the bargain hunter that I am, I have a tendency, to keep on looking and wait for that day that maybe I'll find one that, I guess you might say reasonably priced, in my opinion. At any rate, I did find it when I was searching through my soaps and razors and whatnot, looking through stuff that I was hunting for. And this is the soap I'm talking about. Kind of tell there's not a whole lot left of this soap, and that's what's left in the container there. You kind of see it's gotten smaller over time. And so what I was thinking is I would take and what I use as a cheese grater, grate this up into small fine pieces, and then I would also introduce the pre-shave cube in it and add a sample that I've got here from Soap Commander, and put all that together and see how that works out. And depending on how it all works out, I may or may not add any coconut oil to it. Just depends on how things look. But anyhow, that's my thoughts on whipping up, I guess you might say, my own little thing of soap. A little bit of this and a little bit of that, and see how it all works out. On my previous two that I worked out, used coconut oil and also added a little bit of criminal cream to it for slickness. And that's how I ended up with my crope. Just, being, I guess you might say, a little bit of a creativeness to it. As it goes for the scent, I have a feeling it's going to have its own scent in between the pre-shave cube and the Wilkinson Sword soap. Still has a scent to it. My nose picks it up, so that ought to tell you how the scent strength of it. But thought I'd give it a try and see how it works out. Here we go. Second use on this particular Wilkinson Sword blade. If you're unfamiliar with the Gillette Aristocrat, it does have a bit of a history to it. There's, I'm wanting to say that I guess you might say the original Aristocrat started back in the 30s, maybe. I don't think it was the 20s. I'm pretty sure it was the 30s. But anyway, there is history behind that particular name, the Aristocrat. And this shaver, I guess you might say, after the president, it really piqued my interest because these shavers are very nice. There's slight differences in between the Aristocrat and the president, and a lot of it has to do with coloration, and as it goes for the knurling on these two bands right here. Just little things here and there. And there was a variant, from what I understand, of the Aristocrat. In other words, not all of them are gold. But at any rate, very interesting, and these are fine shavers. If you were looking for just one vintage shaver, boy, it'd be hard not to pick this one. It's very easy going, a lot like similar to a Gillette Super Speed. In other words, if you used one of those, easy to shave with. How this is made, the two that I have, in other words, in between the President and the Aristocrat, the twist to open is so smooth, feels really nice. In other words, it feels like a quality product to match the name. It's just, for me, I just like it. It feels really good in the hand. As it goes for the diameter of the handle, it reminds me of the Fat Boy. It's just got a lot of characteristics to it that from, I guess you might say, it borrows from other versions before and after that, to me, I find really nice. I don't find it's overly aggressive. It's very smooth. Uh, Plays well with a number of different kind of blades. And it's also, it just has that look to it of, I guess you might say, prestige. In other words, it's a quality shaver. Uh, just something that I think a lot of folks, once they actually see it and use it, uh, really decide that they like it. I know at one point in time, I used to see a lot of these aristocrats being used in shave of the days. But over time, the modern razors, I guess you might say, are kind of sort of catching up. Not that there's an abundance of twist to opens that will rival this particular one, but the three-piece ones are very nice shavers. So you can, I think there was an advertisement in that link that I've got down below at the time that this one particular aristocrat being sold. In other words, it shows you the case and all that sort of thing. And I think I'm remembering a price near the $5 mark. So if you can figure 1940s going to 1950s, if that's when that advertisement was made, $5 for a razor back at that point in time, that's a premium price. I mean, it's nothing like probably spending a day's worth of, more than a day's worth of wages on a shaver. So you can kind of imagine, you know, where things were at that point in time, especially when we talk about a case. And I think a number of these shavers that came with cases actually survive better than shavers without cases, considering how old they are and some of them have been used. Like this one here, like I said, you know, you might be able to see that the gold plating is missing off a part of it, and I think that's just through use, and there's not any serious scratches or anything like that on the doors. No pitting, nothing like that. In other words, it's a fantastic candidate to be replated. It is hard to decide that sort of thing. It's in great shape. I don't see, I have that, I guess you might say, sense of urgency to have it replated, you know, to help protect it. It seems to be working just fine the way it is right now. It's you know, what can you say? It just doesn't hit me just yet that that's something I need to do. Now I've got some other razors that, yes, I would, one of these days when I really finally get to that point where I make up my mind, send them in and have them replated in order to help save the razor, because it's lost so much of its plating and it's getting down to, you know, in other words, it's brassing, getting down to bare metal. There's some of them I would like to do that. In other words, I got some Gillette Slims, you know, some adjustables and stuff like that. I wouldn't mind doing like that, because those razors, even though there was plenty of them made, it, you know, you feel compelled to, quote unquote, save that razor from just, you know, deteriorating into something that would be used just for parts. So in other words, I have a healthy respect for the history of the razor. It's a fine tool. If I had found this early on, I probably never would have grown any facial hair. Just a little bit of feedback on the Against the Green Pass. Such a fine shaver. But even back then, considering the late 70s, early 80s, back when I would be shaving on a regular basis, in other words, more than once a week or anything quite like that, these shavers were somewhat expensive, even for back in those days, and no more money what I was making. I wouldn't have spent the money on it, because when you don't have much money, you got a car that's old and it needs lots of attention. And that's where I was at back then. My car was needing lots of attention. My very first car was a 1970 Plymouth Duster. And When I bought it, it didn't have an oil filter, no radio, bald tires on the front. I mean, it was, it was needing lots of help. And I did have enough gas to get it back to the house. But by the time you make all the necessary repairs and pay for the insurance, and back then, as young as I was, insurance was outrageous, just like it is for anybody else that's young. Yeah, I was pretty well broke by the time all that was done and over with. So keeping the car up and running was, you might say, a constant effort. My Duster had a 6-cylinder in it, so at least I got a little bit of decent gas mileage out of it. In other words, it wasn't a 318 or a 340, 360, or whatever the case might be. Purple with a white vinyl top, black interior. Yeah, no stinging this morning. It is a fine shaver, it really is. I really do like it. Something that I'll always keep around. Witch hazel, Humphreys. It's getting a little bit lower. It's going to take a long time to get through all this. It's going to be around a good long moment. Here pretty soon I'll be getting around and going picking up some food for Christmas. The Christmas meal. We ordered it, in other words, we're getting the ham smoked and all that cool stuff, and making all the preparations. I think I haven't found out just yet if I've been tasked with picking out the desserts just yet. Such a great shave this morning. This particular, if you're unfamiliar with Aunt Yulay's aftershave, all of her aftershaves are like this. You have to give them a good shake. They're witch hazel based. In other words, there's not any alcohol in it, and a lot of her aftershaves will separate, so you got to give them a good shake. I like them. They're, last time I bought some, it was running right around the $10 mark, and usually about 4 ounces. Had to look at the print there to make sure. That's what the restrictor looks like. Some people don't like plastic, some people do. I could see both ways. Some discussion is that the plastic affects the scent. I think it feels better if they're in glass. But if you're if you're dropping things quite a bit, buttery fingers in other words, or if you're traveling, yeah, I'd have to say that the plastic container is probably something you're looking for. And this one here, I have to say, even though the lid is just your basic lid, it doesn't have a post going down into the restrictor. I've never had any problems with these leaking either. So there is that if you're thinking about using one of these to travel with. The scent of Monica's aftershave has always been pretty nice. Something my nose really does pick up. I don't know if her store on this side of, you might say, of things have been closed for a moment because due to the move, at least that's what the website says. And so I have no idea when it's going to open up, so it's something you probably just have to keep on checking from time to time. But if I should ever figure out that she is open, I'll be sure to let everybody know. Also, on a side note, I thought it's you get down towards the end of the year and a milestone and whatnot, and I think if I got this figured right, yes, to this particular video makes 837 video. Not quite the 1,000 mark, hoping to hit it in next year, but yes, I put out a few videos, so there's a lot to watch. If I don't make one Christmas Day, there's a whole bunch you can go check out. Hope everybody's doing well. Stay healthy, stay safe, and smooth shaves to you.